speaking of wisdom, how about if we hear from the man, Mike from around the world? Mike,
Pastor, how you doing? How do you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear, and let me see, Brock, you have to make the adjustments here on the volume. Go ahead, Mike.
I can actually see.
You can see?
Yeah, I can see.
Well,
I'm in a hole. I'm deep in a hole right now. No, it's not that deep. It's only about maybe, it's deep. It's a little deep.
Now, how deep in a hole are you? No, I want to know this.
4 stories.
Mike, you see that kind of stuff right there. So I take it you're on the job if you're 4 stories.
That's where they put people like me, deep in a hole.
Okay. Well, I've been in a hole all my life, and I'm not even underground right now. Okay, so don't worry. All right, Mike. Hey, great to have you tonight. Wow, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. This blood moon, does it mean anything to you? It's coming up. Happens to be the night of decision night, election night.
Of course.
And we've never had one on a decision night like this. I mean, we've never had one in the history of this republic. And what do you think about this one?
Well, personally, I think that
Brock, turn Mike up. Mike,
there's a set of people who track. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You're a little low, Mike.
They say too low.
Yeah, if you can go a little louder, Mike.
I don't know if I can. Let me see. Is this all
That's better.
Right side? That's
better, Mike.
See, I don't want to hang up. Okay, that's better. You said?
Yeah, that's better. And Brock, you can adjust it. Yep.
Good to go. Okay.
Good to go.
Is it good to go?
Yeah, we're good.
Good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go. I think so.
Okay, I can't help but to think of Genesis. When God said, he said, the great lights in the sky for signs and for seasons, but that actual word is signals, right? A signaling, an indication of something.
Yep.
Right? So then, in that respect, I find this to be, it just lines up perfectly that this is a hint. Every single eclipse that we've ever had, right, that we can imagine, there's been a change in humanity. Direction has been changed every single time. Sometimes people would look for one thing, right? But the change in humanity is very significant. I mean, very significant. The earth always, it seems like the direction of humanity changes every time we have a blood moon. And this one happening during this election year, Pastor, this election year is really life or death. It's a life or death decision.
Yes.
I don't think that people really understand, just how heavy that statement actually is. It really is life or death. We're sitting on a time bomb called people. We have wars all over the place, yes. But this election will determine if we go directly into World War III, possibly that same night. That's no joke.
What?
This is a big concern. This is a huge concern that the election, based on the election outcome, that could really that could send indicators to certain countries, and they will most certainly make their move. They know this because they always monitor what everybody is saying, and the chatter is high. So.
Okay, now, Mike.
This is a life or death decision.
Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, because we realize now this is not a presidential election. Of course, this will determine who's leading the Congress, basically, whether it be the House or the Senate. But are you saying that that if there's a major shift and there's a change in power structure of the Congress, that this does change the game as far as world foreign policy?
Yes. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
A president, if you notice, a president, they have certain powers, but they don't have large sweeping powers like Congress has, right? And so when you have that power change in Congress, when you have that power change in small government, things of that nature, that's really what the people actually demand, right? And everything seems to follow that every single time. So what nations normally do based on these midterms, they begin to base, strategic financial decisions, their economy, their food industry, power and industry. They always make changes. China specifically, weapons trades, they always evoke or they will, kind of cancel out any type of aggressive behavior. They will realign or stay put based on these decisions. If the people are calling for more aggressive individuals that are going to have a harder stance on communism, basically, watch out. It's going to be life or death, because our president Biden, okay, he's up there in age. Let's go ahead and face it. He's up there in age. He's not as proficient as he used to be. He's not. And certain things are starting to slip him. Even the vice president it shows concern towards his activities and behavior. So the power really does not sit with POTUS anymore. The power would be those advisors that sit behind POTUS, and they also take their cues from what most elections and polls say. So this election is going to tell everything. When everything is tabulated, they're going to have a good idea what direction this country is going in. And based on that, so is everybody else. And everybody else is ready to move with this election, Pastor Paul.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. And I think that's why God set up this blood moon, this sign in the heavens for this very night. It's not by accident that this lands on this night. And the fact that the blood moon is over America, quite interesting. And what do you think it has also anything to do with Israel, with the fact that their election just finished, and the comeback kid for sure is King Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu is back, and with a better majority than he's had in a long time. He's got 64 seats out of the 120. That means he's probably going to be in for another 3-4 years at least. What's your thoughts?
Him coming back, you know what that means, don't you? That means a preemptive on Iran, right? Which also means this is why right now, tonight, and last night, there's a serious concern with Saudi Arabia, with the USA, with the UK, with allied powers, NATO, with Iran. What is the reason why? Because they have, you wouldn't believe how many drones they have and what's in those drones. They found out that they also have chemical-based drones. They have drones that carry biological chemical payloads. Now, a kamikaze drone, right? No big deal. It may crash anywhere. But if it's loaded with chemical weapons, if it's loaded with biological weapons, we have a problem. And this is what they're finding. So the alert level has certainly raised. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if in the UK, you see their defense posture change within 2 weeks, right? Everybody, 2 deadlines have passed. They have been trying to fortify all underground facilities prior to this coming Saturday, okay? All of them prior to this coming Saturday. So this Saturday is the deadline for the fortifications of these underground facilities. Now, the point that they have poured more money into it and have reallocated funds, assets, personnel, and critical things to the reinforcing of these, that kind of tells you something, what they expect. Why do they expect this? Because of the elections, because of the power shift that's taking place. Israel is an indication of the people in Israel. They saw what the other side offered, which was nothing at all, really. And so with Bibi being back, he's also quite aggressive against Iran, right? Which is that's going to become a very important. He's going to have to do a preemptive against Iran. I hate to say that, but he has no choice. Not to mention, we have the Lebanon issue. We have the Syria issue. We have Turkey, which is also, they're starting to break deals more than they're keeping it, right?
Yep.
They're trying to keep the grain and everything going, but Putin is getting in the way of certain things with Turkey, so they have to have emergency discussions. And then we have new movements of Russian sea vessels and Chinese. The Chinese are coordinating with Russia in the Pacific. They shouldn't be in the Pacific. But anyway, they're coordinating in the Pacific something that has got Japan spooked. So we have a few situations happening right now that are going to, we could really face some penalties by way of these elections.
So this is so big. So decision night, this election on November 8th is really huge. and not just our domestic things that we think about here domestically, but as you study so closely, foreign policy is really on the line here. And I think that we know about which way this thing is going to go, and I think the world's anticipating. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, they're nervous. Actually, they're nervous. You're going to see just the same thing that happened with the change in powers of certain individuals overseas. It's going to happen here in the USA too. It is. I tell you what, the future in the USA is in the air right now. I mean that because things are fragile concerning leadership. They're very fragile, right? Things are becoming dangerous. They're being coordinated. The militias in America are certainly activated. They're certainly ready. These guys are ready, wherever they are. But you just can't go down and hunt somebody down based on an idea. And so that's going to change our how people can move around in the USA. I'll put it that way. That's going to start to alter the freedom of people here, which is why you're going to see a brand new implementation on the internet with concerning freedom of speech. With everything, you're going to see it, and there are going to be real penalties that come this time. I mean, last week when I said this is it, I actually meant that this is it. There's some policies coming down. People are not going to like them. Nevertheless, we're going to have to deal with them. We're going to have to continue to operate and function with these policies in place. They will be brutal and costly for a lot of people, but this is the direction everybody is going. Because fast forward, they're going to link. As we discussed in that webinar that you had, they're going to link statements of Christianity as empowering the wrong type people, right? And they're going to make it's looking bad. And if you've noticed, if everybody has noticed, public opinion of Christianity is different today than it used to be, 3 months ago. Yep. It is not favorable. In the USA, it is not favorable in the USA. And so, here we go. And these things are building momentum. They're I'm sure they're disturbing for the average individual out there because they don't know, what governments can and cannot do. But folks, I tell you, it means that the people around you, the people in your neighborhoods, the people around you, they're siding with the immoral type of USA, some socialistic USA view, rather than what we would consider democracy. So we have, it's going to be it could be a rough ride. It likely will be a rough ride.
Let's talk also, besides America, Mike, let's talk about what's happening in the UK. Okay. You've got a new king. And I remember what you said. You said, oh boy, things are going to be changing now because there's things that happen. It can't happen unless a king is in place. Right. Well, it didn't take long. Liz Truss was removed. She only had 44 days. We got a new prime minister. This guy's a financial guy all the way. He has more money than the royals have. And he is a Hindu, which is total different. They've never had that before. And he wants to, he's the World Economic Forum. He and King Charles are very close, and they're working with Klaus Schwab over at the World Economic Forum. And they're talking about a currency. They want to see the British currency, really they want the whole world currency to go to, they said, a digital type blockchain currency. Your thoughts about that?
Yes, there it is. You remember, Pastor, we discussed this, and are you kidding? They're actually doing it. We had that discussion about cryptocurrency and the system for cryptocurrency.
Yes, right? We did.
Dealing with the blockchains and the mining and all this stuff. We discussed that and said that it was, I was saying that it was a new footprint or going to be implemented with the beast system, right?
Yep.
Why? Because they tried to break this thing from every single angle. Do you know that? All governments tried to break down cryptocurrency, and it did not work. It didn't work. Why? Because it's maintained by the people. So we have this system with cryptocurrency, and those people who are proficient or they understand cryptocurrency, here we go with a new type prosperity. It's going to be quite, because when everything goes into this cryptocurrency type of framework, right? that's going to do something very different. It won't be called the dollar. I can tell you that now. It's not going to be called the dollar. And we likely will have that take place at the beginning of next year. It's not going to be called the dollar. It's going to be called something else.
Whoa! The beginning of some.
Why? It's because the USA has made a move, and guess what? They're ready. They're ready to put their currency over in that digital framework. Do you know that? The USA they've already formed up everything necessary to move the USA. The USA will have an official digital currency. Do you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yep, it's all set up. It's all ready to go. That's why these guys spent billions of dollars in research and people, you name it. They spent a lot of money looking into cryptocurrency, trying to find flaws with it, trying to see how robust it is. They were trying everything with it, and they couldn't even crash it, right? Because it's not controlled by those conventional means. It's not. I wouldn't say it truly is decentralized, which means it has a board of members that is so huge that no one country can knock that thing out, right? So here's the deal. You have folks who are in cryptocurrency right now. I'll go ahead and tell you, those folks who are in cryptocurrency right now, because of the new system perks, right? Because of what people are going to begin to see, you watch it shoot right through the roof. That's why they had to bring Bitcoin down to about $19,000. They had to level off everything to give a new entry, a brand new door into cryptocurrency. They knew what they were doing. Now you have countries getting in. Do you know that the banks have already gotten into cryptocurrency, right? Every single bank is in cryptocurrency. Is that a coincidence? And it went low. Every single bank went in. Why? Because when they start flipping from the dollar, from all these other assets that countries had, that everybody is used to, what they will call old democracy. Once all that's gone, there's going to be a new power center in every single nation, right? So you're going to see leadership change to some of these people who are well-versed dealing with cryptocurrency all across the board. You're talking about Russia, you're talking about the USA, South America, you name it. All of them are going to do the exact same thing because the world system is changing, right? It is changing.
Mike, also, while we're talking about world systems changing, things changing, folks, yes, Heidi.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Is he saying that Bitcoin and then dropped so that they can all buy in? Is that what he's saying?
Yes, he's saying the Bitcoin dropped so that these guys could buy in. This was purposely done so that the big boys could buy in. And because if it's too high, then but if you already showed a ceiling and then bring it closer to a floor, then people will buy low so that it will go high. Yeah. Mike, that's a good point, Heidi. Very good point. Mike, talk to us about the diesel shortage. Okay, it's on the news on Fox News again tonight. We're hearing about it. We're hearing that the trucking companies are pre-buying their diesel. Guys, let me say something real fast about the sound. My apologies. I can't do any better with it. I'm not in a normal studio setting where everything runs to a central board where Brock can manage it. So I'm doing the very best I can. I'm not speaking very much. And when Mike speaks, I'll be quiet. He's lower no matter how much I can't crank him any higher. So bear with us, okay? Doing our very best, and my apologies. Mike, what do you think about the diesel shortage here in America? What does this mean? I'm not saying we're going to run out of diesel and everything's going to bog down, but or am I?
Well, yeah, it's real. It's real. That diesel fuel is refined, right? So it's actually a refinery issue is what that is. The raw ingredients we have, right? Here's the problem though. When we get down to a certain level, jet fuel is going to become one of the primary safeguards of fuel, period. So they have to knock off at least, I'd say about 89% of what we actually have so they can keep military aircraft fueled. Everybody should understand that we are right at the precipice of a war that everybody can see. And so we need all vehicles fueled up all the time. That's pretty expensive, right? Because you're looking at having aircraft fueled up continuously. You're looking at some of the speed loaders. Everything is filled up continuously. Transportation is they're running all over the country, getting assets ready, moving things, right? And so that takes fuel. And the armed services are going to take up, they're going to have first dibs on this. Israel is next. Anything that we have left over. As far as our military is concerned, Israel has orders for jet fuel. Even right now, they have orders for jet fuel. And so, in order, we have to have that reserve on hand to refine for jet fuel, right? The JP orders, and to get that stuff into Israel pretty quickly. Because if something were to happen, right? Because we're on standby. We're on standby continuously, and that costs a lot of money. We're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about machinery running. Our readiness state is at a pretty high level. If it goes up any higher, if we go up any higher as far as our defense posture, that's when things are starting to shut down. That's why the UK looks the way it does, and Europe looks the way it does. If you notice, it's going to balance out. Everybody's economy is going to look the way it's looking because the military has had first dibs on this. And the UK has already ordered that their Air Force be sent all around the country. So if anything comes into the UK, it's not going to hit in one location, destroy everything. So they have things on the move also, right? Because everybody's ready to go at any moment. They're ready to go. And so that's what we face. And they're talking about this diesel fuel shortage. It's a shortage because they can't get that fuel up. They can't get that to cities. That's going to have to be for the DoD.
Yeah, because the threat is real. When you say everybody's on standby, you're not just talking about United States concerned about what Russia may do. You're talking about what Israel may do with Iran,
That's right. That's right.
What China may do with Taiwan, what North Korea might do with Japan. Right. Yeah, that means a ton of fuel. Everything has to be at top fuel and top reserves in different locations around the world.
That's right.
So if that means the civilians have to go without a little bit to protect the nation, that's just the way it's got to be. And
that's right. And you know what they should? They don't want to explain that. That's a problem. In World War II, they clearly explained that. People got behind the country and what they were doing. Times were difficult. But because they told the truth, well, part of the truth about what was happening, people, they jumped behind it and said, let's help. They won't do it this time because they're frightened of panic. You have an entire generation of people who will sue them if they say something like that, right? It'll cause too many domestic issues. You have these young kids have grown up, some of the young kids who have no value system whatsoever. If they say something like that, like our military's on standby, then a lot of people will begin to panic because people are not as level-headed as you would think. They're just not. And so they don't want to say anything like that because that would make people nervous.
Speaking of some of these things that makes you nervous, that 6.0 earthquake, Mike, that hit about 1,000 miles, I guess, off the coast of California a couple of days ago. What's really weird is I was looking at the map. I didn't see any fault lines there, but maybe there is some, and I don't know it. Is this part of your concern when you talk about the fault lines along that California coast all the way down into Mexico, or is this something different?
Well, yeah, and we also have new fault lines in America. We do. We have new fault lines. Well, we have new fault lines all across the globe, and I'm trying to get my hands on that data so I can actually pinpoint where these things are. But yeah, we have new fault lines because our crust is thin in certain places where it shouldn't be, and some of these fault lines, where you have one landmass that goes underneath another on a continuous basis, and then they kind of snap out. Some of the lip of those places has been eaten away by gases, not by magma, but by very hot gases, superheated water. Not quite magma, but very hot gases. Now, if it starts smelling on the California coast, then I would worry, right? That's one of the telltale things you watch for. If people start smelling things and start looking. Also, follow the animals. If you don't see any birds flying in certain areas like Yellowstone, California, New York City, places like that, then pay attention. If you're in the Gulf on a boat and you don't see any marine life or anything like that, then get out of the Gulf as fast as you can, because nobody ever talks about the Gulf. But I can tell you right now, the Gulf is going to cause the USA some very serious issues, the USA and Mexico. But the animals, when they start changing where they are going, they're doing so because of magnetic influences, environmental pressure differences, and all these different properties that affect them. You don't see animal life. That probably means you don't need to be there either, is what that means. So they're very good indicators, right? Now, we're not talking about seasonal migrations and things like that. We're talking about, suppose no birds came back to California. They just didn't come back. And say 6 or 8 months went by, nobody's hearing any birds. It's time to go.
Wow.
It's time to leave.
Wow. Okay, so remember you told me that if I'm ever in a boat, I should let you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to be like 70 miles in the Gulf. Is that not a good idea?
Oh. Really?
Yeah, really.
Are you really?
I am really tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you, listen, Fastball, this is based on that dream. I know one thing for certain. One day on a boat, now I think it's going to happen in reality this way. One day on the boat, the sun will go down and will not come back up again. Meaning, I think the sun going down means it's almost like the time of salvation. It's everybody's ready. What's done is done, and that will be it. And then everything else will come, right? So,
wow.
But you were active during that. And just to say it again, I know it was Heidi now sitting at a table. She was at it. Everybody was dressed one way as it began. And they were coming from all over the place. But then as they continued to sit there, their clothing changed, right? By the time the sun was going down, everybody was, they were just remarkably renewed. There were no broken people there, right? But who does that with the sun going down? And it was almost like, okay, this is it. We're leaving. This is it. That's it. And of course, you came around that corner. You were saying, "Are you serious?" And what? Right? I could still hear that in that dream. That was incredible. People are doing right now exactly what they were doing in that dream. Some people are putting their salvation on hold to go back and to mingle into the world one more time to see if they can make it. Mistake. Because if they start doing that, they're going to be lost the same way they were before they came to Christ. Time is not permitted as people think. In other words, we don't have the time we think we have, right? I honestly don't think there's going to be an indication of when this takes place. I don't think I think it's going to catch everybody by surprise. And so having said that, wouldn't that be the best way to catch us in our honest moment? In a moment that we have no idea about before anything ever happens, and aside from every single day we thought anything would happen on, to catch us exactly how we are in truth.
Well, I think your dream has been very prophetic. You've spoken about before, and all I can say, folks, is if physically what he saw, which I believe is probably really spiritually, but it could also be physically in both. I would say that you don't want to let tonight get away. And if you're not saved, if you have not made that commitment to Christ, I would not wait around. I think, God speaks in mysterious ways. He definitely does through dreams and visions. And you're right, Mike. People better get on board because the ship is going to pull out for the last time. And I'm serious. The last altar call, the last broadcast, the last opportunity. We don't know when it is, but it is way closer than any of us think. It's coming.
It's coming. Yes, it is. It's coming.
Now, Mike. Also, the UK. Well, let's go to Poland. Poland just put up some razor wire along the coast with Russia. What's this about?
They sure did. Well, Poland's being dragged into. They have threats on them right now. Russia threatens people behind certain activities. And, of course, Poland is assisting in what NATO wants them to assist in. It's kind of like this. If Poland does not assist, well, NATO would just cut them off. That's how it is. And so you have NATO countries who are being drawn in to, those Baltic regions, all are being drawn into this thing. It's spreading. It's starting to spread. Fastball is going beyond the borders of the UK. It's turning into some political thing, but it's spreading at the same time. right? It's only a matter of time before Turkey is fully integrated into the Russia-Ukrainian crisis.
Only make it worse.
Yeah, it's going to make it worse. They could have a long time ago. They could take Putin out. You know, they can't do that though, because they understand that there are folks who are radical that would gladly do what he did not want to do. They have the resolve to do it, right? They don't have family like Putin does. Putin looks out for his daughters. Putin looks out for certain family members. He does. He's very concerned about them. But so he can only go. Putin himself can only go so far. These other guys, it's a different story. The Iranian situation is going to be a case in point to this, as they destabilize as far as what they were going into something new. They're gonna turn into some militarized nation. Just watch and see. They will begin to attack without prejudice, right? They will reach out and touch as many as they can, and right now they have the capability to overwhelm a few nations. And if they decide to do this, no one's going to be able to launch aircraft because of the sheer number, right? Remember I said before, they have enough missiles to cover the sky. They do. They actually have enough missiles. These guys have never stopped manufacturing missiles. And by sheer numbers, see, one aircraft can't knock out, 20 or 30 missiles at the same time. Not the ones they have. Plus, they have a drone army, right? And that those drones and missiles are going to be, some of them are going to be laden with chemical biological weapons. And so guess what? If they're laden with chemical biological weapons, the only way to actually intercept something like that is with a Patriot missile system, which with an incinerator warhead that would just send up a cloud that would incinerate the incoming missile, right? That's the only way to do it, because if you knock it down, it's going to fall somewhere. Then you have chemical biological contaminants all over the Middle East, right? So if they launch a bunch of missiles like that, you know what the best strategy is? Let them hit. Let them hit. Just take the loss and let them hit, so you can contain it wherever they hit. They have enough to cover a lot. They could cover a lot. They could wipe Saudi Arabia off the map, plus Israel, plus half of Turkey and all of Syria, with one barrage, with one frontal barrage. They can actually accomplish this. That has a lot of people nervous, and this is aside from any nuclear ambitions, right, that they've been having for the last 50 years. What everybody kept saying, and in one more year they're gonna break out, right? Hopefully everybody's not falling for that, because they've been saying that since 1994.
Right.
They said in 2 more, it used to be in 1994, they said 2 more years they're going to have a nuclear weapon. As time progressed, it got lower and lower and lower and lower. In fact, during the Obama campaign, I believe they said in 2 years they're going to have a nuclear weapon. Well, guess what? He served 2 terms, and then right at the end of his term, they were talking about that again, and they said within a month he'll have a nuclear weapon, right? They keep saying this. So what's more realistic? It's more realistic to know that this guy already has nuclear warheads, right? But he can't position his vehicle systems. He only has three vehicle systems for launching a nuclear weapon. That means he's likely in full possession of ICBMs and the warheads, and they do work, right? But he's not going to waste them by launching them and then nothing follows. He's not going to do that. It's going to be major. It's going to be one of those. It'll be, they want to wipe Israel off the map. They're going to try it.
Okay. So you said that when Benjamin Netanyahu taking back the prime minister, that's a game changer of strategies in the Middle East, because he's not going to be as passive. He's not going to play. Right. He's not going to play the game of appeasement. Do you think he will do a preemptive strike on Iran soon?
Pastor, we had to talk him down twice.
Wow, really?
This guy, Israel is dangerous. They're dangerous, right? He had to be talked down twice from wiping Iran off the map. I mean, totally. It Israel wipe Iran off the map? Yes, they could. Yes, they most certainly could. They could wipe them off the map. But if they did that, they would ignite a war in the Middle East of which they would have no allies.
Right.
Right?
So they don't want to be. So if they do a preemptive strike, they can take down the threat of Iran, but then they don't have any allies nowhere in the world.
That's right.
But if they wait,
everybody would demand that Israel be, undone.
Yeah.
That's what they would demand. So guess what he does? So Bibi is smart though. What he does is he keeps up the pressure. He keeps up the language, right? He keeps up the plans, some of the tactics. So it looks like he's planning some sort of preemptive, but he doesn't do it all the way. He may send out some air sorties to take care of some immediate issues, and he has to maintain that. If he ever slips on that, it's going to cost him big time. We know at some point, by the word of God, it will not work because he'll face an army that is just overwhelming.
Yeah, and that's found in the book of Zechariah, folks. If you go to the 14th chapter, it tells you that there is an invasion on Israel to the point that Jerusalem, half the city, looks like it's taken. And it looks like they're going to lose for sure. And they would lose, except that the Lord comes and stands on the Mount of Olives and takes over. And that's right in the Bible. I mean, So we're living in this time now, Mike, where the potential for that to happen is here. Think about this.
Yeah,
Israel wasn't a nation when Ezekiel prophesied the dry bones. Israel wasn't a nation when Zechariah was telling you how this thing was going to come to a head. Here we are 3,000 years later. Israel's a nation. It's been a nation a generation. And we got enough technology and weaponry and in the political atmosphere that the stage is set. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, it is. We're so close. Pastor Bone, we're so close because I tell you, it's only by God's grace. Things have been held back. There have been some attempts. I can't name what those attempts are, but the equipment did not function. That's been by multiple sides. There were a couple of preemptives that were attempted, but the equipment would not function. It's almost like, here's what I strongly believe, because I've seen this too much. Nothing can happen until God permits it to happen, right? I've seen it too many times.
Yep.
Things fail when nothing is wrong with it. Things turn off when somebody was about to, issue some sort of inerrant command or whatever the case is. I've seen too many things fail like that, right?
Yep.
Now, I don't believe anything can take place but when God is, when he says something is going to take place, my question is, where will the people be in their hearts, in their minds? Are they going to be, because if they're not ready right now, right? People normally, how they are right now, what they've got right now is what they're going to have tomorrow. And unless they change right now with urgency and truthfully, wholeheartedly, Pastor Paul, they're not going to be ready tomorrow. It's going to be some futuristic thing to them always. The day it happens, it's just going to be sad. You'll have some people say, oh, no, wait, this will happen further down the years. Boom, and that's the end of that person, right? So,
okay, now North Korea has all of a sudden decided to fire off 25 missiles yesterday, and it shot that ICBM missile today that failed, I guess. I mean, what is this about? Is this...
They're coordinating, Pastor Paul. North Korea has a habit of coordinating. If you notice, every time the pressure gets heavy on China, North Korea does something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single time. And so in this case, remember the North Korean scientists that were in Iran helping them develop nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
All the world's best scientists that were not at CERN were in Iran helping them develop things. Some not so good things. Because they have something similar to the Hadron Collider in Iran too. Do you know that?
Really?
Because nobody can quite figure out how they enriched uranium the way they did. I'm sure somebody's going to look now, but these guys have an enrichment process that blows everybody else's process away. So somehow they're able to manipulate things they shouldn't be able to. They shouldn't have that capability. They just shouldn't. We already know they can take control of aircraft whenever they want to. That's why nobody really flies over Iran. They have landed every nation's aircraft in their airports. How in the world do they do that? From every single nation, they've taken an aircraft. From every single nation, they've taken a drone.
And then they
From
re-engineer.
every single nation. And
Yeah.
they landed the thing, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. How did they hijack them and can land them?
right.
And they can re-engineer them, and you know that. Yeah, they've got some kind of a technology that.
That's right.
An advantage of some sort here that the world's trying to figure out. Yeah. Well, yeah. So North Korea working close with Iran. Again, you're talking Iran. Again, you're talking Middle East. You're talking the South Pacific. China's involved. Remember when you said that there's going to be some problems in the UK because of the shortages of oil and natural gas? Well, I understand that the UK this week has been testing. They are testing a plan in case there's 7 days of outages, where I mean literally 7 days of no power or water or you know, food, I guess, being distributed. So have they ever done a test like this before?
No, not like this. Not like this. They have to coordinate with of course they use a lot of natural gas over there, right? They use a lot of that. A lot of steam processes go through. So they set up a brand new type of, I guess you could say, network that can toggle. It kind of toggles and controls resources in the UK that they were installing as part of that new system. So in other words, to turn one half of the UK off to salvage the other half, or to toggle the usage, or based on weather temperatures, right? To allot certain people the usage of heat, and maybe not the other individuals who just had it, to do it that way, so they can distribute the heat and the water and the energy and all this good stuff, so they won't totally have to shut down. But everybody will have to sacrifice a portion of something, right, to continue to operate. They're doing this. They have more problems than oil, right? Why would electricity be, you know, inhibited by oil? Why would, but that doesn't make sense, right? They have a reactor over there, right? That reactor is not very secure, Pastor Paul. They've been having issues with individuals popping up. Now, remember, the UK has individuals over there who are jihadists, who are ISIS members, right?
Yeah.
These ISIS members they're over there. They understand the chatter. They understand quite a few things. And they're going to have a Islamic issue over there with radical Islamic, you know, aggressors. And they understand this. So they have to have an infrastructure ready to shut down, right? Ready to secure. The only way to secure something like that is to shut down. Here's the bad part. They have people who are employed. You don't know who they are, right?
No.
They've already snagged a few people who were employed in positions, very sensitive positions, whose loyalty was with ISIS. And so you really don't know who is who until, you know, they decide to do what they're going to do. They have to have safeguards in place for that, safeguards in place for some of the shortages. They have a food shortage. And then, of course, they're thinking of something to help Europe out. Europe is they're in bad trouble. Europe is in trouble.
Yeah.
And so they have to do something to help, because they still have that seated position over there where they have to, you know, they have to make some decision to do something to help somebody out. But this winter is just going to be very challenging for a lot of people. And it really is just going to be up to, I believe that there's a portion of this, Pastor Paul. There is a portion of this that is too good to be true. In other words, all these conditions have come up, forcing the perfect scenario to have people believe that there are major issues and problems, and that they can absolutely change how a person lives, and the person has no choice but to accept the new paradigm or the new way of living. Right? It's almost like something is being forced upon the people, but the people have no knowledge, because they have. It seems warranted. It seems warranted to shut somebody's power off, to shut somebody's heat off, to shut somebody's electricity off. It seems warranted by all the events that are happening around the globe. But if anybody were to take a closer look, it's too good to be true. the things were happening, like dominoes in a row. And we're talking about staged dominoes, right? There's somebody behind it. There's somebody causing this psychological environment to be undeniable in people's eyes, so they have no choice, and they will not fight against the change that is coming.
Let's talk about the change. Dark winter. I mean, last week we were talking. You said we haven't talked about dark winter. So you mentioned winter just a second ago, and I'm thinking, okay, Mike, is there any bombs you're about ready to drop on us here? Because I think I sense that you're feeling that this winter is a deadly winter, and maybe there's a reason you're feeling that way, or something you know.
It could be bad. This winter could be the most challenging winter we've ever had, and part of that I don't think anybody's ready for what the weather is going to contribute to that. But even without the weather, there are going to be some conditions we're just not used to. There are going to be a lot of policy changes. Keep in mind, in the winter, people can't travel like they normally do.
Right.
In the winter, to identify locations of anybody is absolutely, when they take all the data they can collect, they collect it then, because people are either with family or they're stuck there in their homes. They don't travel too much, save for Christmas. But you have perfect accountability of all people, and if a new system was going to be implemented, then all the changes when you make those in the winter. So that when summer breaks, right, when summer actually breaks, and the hardship looks like it's over, you could easily move people into a brand new type of system, and they would embrace it. If people around the earth rejected the beast system, right, then the beast system would not work.
Right.
But we know that's not the case. We know it's going to be an answer to a great many people. We know people are going to love the system of the beast. And I can't help but to notice atmospheric issues that we're facing, certain things that are inbound. They're absolutely going to change our atmosphere in a not so good way.
So a lot of people are going to die in this dark winter. There's things going to happen, and you really are explaining to us that there's going to be this new beast system that comes in, which the Bible tells us that, and you're saying they will embrace it, and the Bible tells us that the world will embrace this. There have to be a reason that they want to embrace a new system. Is this reason about to happen? And when you say it's going to be a dark winter for a lot of people, are we talking the United States, or are you going global here?
This is going to have to be a system-wide change. It'll be system-wide, which means the old system that we're used to living under is going to be the blame system. They're going to put everything on what we believe in right now, our strong value system right now. Some of the ideologies that we have right now, they're going to point to them and say, nope, that was the problem. We're not going back to that. And this new system is going to be prosperous. The old system is hardship, and they're going to make that distinction, and they're going to drive that point home.
So we're going to feel the pain. So we're going to feel the pain globally, including the United States to some degree, but globally we're going to feel the pain, and they're going to drive that home first before they offer the olive branch.
Yeah, they're going to make the old system tasteless, fruitless, and everything else. It's just like right now, if something happens to, well, I shouldn't say that, but cryptocurrency is very strong right now. This is going to be seen over the next couple days. It'll be very strong, but it's also made to look very, very iffy, right? Very shaky, very shaky. Strength meaning the system is there, but I have to tell you that system is going to be fully absorbed. Fully absorbed.
So have they made these changes? I mean, these are being discussed at high levels? Or are armies and is military involved in any way?
Well,
in preparation.
Jade Helm.
Yeah.
Didn't Jade Helm have a movement scenario, a movement order?
Yeah.
That would take place in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Now, I believe in the scenario, one of their directives was to hold neighborhoods and things like that after they changed their places over into processing centers and checkpoints, to hold them throughout the winter. They were demonstrating how that would work. right?
Yeah,
That was part of that scenario.
Well, you had
that was published it should have been published in a couple places because a lot of people were discussing Jade Helm at the time, and Walmart, was the center of that, right?
Yeah, Jade Helm, I remember there was military vehicles everywhere, even in little towns. There were military exercises taking place, but no one had no clue why it was happening. Helicopters, frogmen jumping, being lowered down, paramilitary people jumping out of planes, and the citizen containment seemed to be a word we were hearing a lot.
That was a big part of it,
and
the whole thing was mastering the human domain.
Yes, well, the mastering of the human, including, and I got a little bit in trouble over the fact that I found out that there was fencing, a certain kind of fencing off of segments of cities.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
and also the underground tunnels of the Walmart system was also in play.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
is this because
with any place, right? There are going to be reasonable casualties. There's going to be a part of a place you cannot take with you. You're going to have to essentially block that place off, right? Like, for example, the undesirables. You can't let undesirables, come into a system that where you're in a survival mode or something like that. So, yeah, that's absolutely factored in.
Well, that's very similar to what Hitler did in World War II with the Jews. Of course, he created the ghettos in Warsaw, Poland, and in different, and they were considered the undesirables at that time. Do the Christians become? I mean, our ideology, according to Scripture, we are going to be persecuted pretty relentlessly. I mean, do you see that coming as part of this expansion of the Jade Helm? So you're saying the Jade Helm exercise was actually just a precursor to what's a paramilitary police state, which includes a new system of food and water and distribution or something?
Well, right now people are rejecting leadership, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if the majority of the people do not get what they want during any election? They're going to revolt.
Yeah.
So then mastering the human domain is to shut down those revolts, or certainly redirect them, or certainly have them not take place or take place in certain areas. That could be either or. And so that's going to be a problem. That'll be a problem almost immediately. People, I'll put it this way. People are so trapped in politics right now. There's a lot of crime related to politics of people who were, family members are broken up because of politics, even right now. And believe me, during this election season, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because people they have allowed an ideology to make them target somebody else. That's Satan's modus operandi. He uses everything so one person can target another, right? And he's going to do that. That could actually jump out of control.
Isn't let's go back a little bit. We've heard these terms before, and I got to be careful because this is because of the platform we're in. But the word deplorable was used to identify a certain segment of the population. And then we've heard ultra MAGA is now recently being used by the current president. And again, to identify less desirables or people that may be of some type of persuasion and threat to the current system. These keep bringing these same terms back. It gets regurgitated by the mass media, the propaganda guys. And am I right here that they're setting they're trying to change a mindset of the populace here?
They already have. In fact, there are two plants in the Republican Party right now that shouldn't even be in the Republican Party. And because I know one of them. Every time I see that you can't just say their names out, right?
Right.
I won't tolerate that.
No.
People ought to discern it. They should discern it. Those people, when somebody begins to go against, when they start being a little too free in what they're doing, something is wrong, right? There are checks and balances even within the party. And when people start acting a bit too free with what they say, something's wrong with that person. They're getting away with too much. And people should really watch that. But they're going to utilize the new dirty term is going to be Republican or Democrat, either or, based on where you are.
Yeah.
And it is certainly divisive right now. The sad part is people have bought into the ideology of utilizing these political ideologies, right, to become an enemy of somebody else that's already working. It's already, murder rate is high, divorce rate is even higher. Kids are still divorcing families. You have all these things happening, and we're not even, this is domestic. These are domestic issues. People are disrespectful more than ever to police officers. The police officers put up with quite a bit. You have that's translating to military soldiers. They're becoming highly disrespectful, and they're trying to practice democracy when they're there to preserve it. So you have all these different mechanisms that are turning upside down, because it's almost like those of the real democracy, the real republic, do not speak the language of what these people are demanding right now. And I believe that since people have lost their morals, right, there are certain subjects that they spent trillions of dollars normalizing in the USA and around the world. They spent money on these. They went and recruited people and got everybody who could lean in that direction, put them up on a pedestal, utilizing them as a divisive measure for gauge. That's how they gauge people, the populace, right? So, but they have turned the moral responsibilities of an individual towards darkness. They've done this to a lot of folks. In other words, right? A lot of people are tolerant. They're very tolerant. Now, being tolerant is one thing, but to compromise your faith is something different. And now you have folks, some new thing is abroad where they are compromising principles of Christ to accommodate New World ideologies right here in America. And that should not be. But it is. And it's getting worse to the point where there's a loss of confidence in certain things. Even the average Christian out there, if they're not careful, they're going to have no confidence in their own faith. They're going to feel defeated. If a person is feeling defeated, well, that's a different word for that. That's called unbelief. Because when we feel defeated, we're certainly not accepting how God is raising us, because he's raising us. God is. The devil is not. The devil can't do anything he wants to do. He has to get permission to touch those that believe in Christ.
Amen.
But Pastor Paul, how many people don't believe that, to the point where they will get up and attack you or anybody else because they've had a bad day, because things are not working out, and they say, well, that scripture of faith is no good, so what it really must mean is this, and they're starting to give alternatives. So then all these aspects of things are changing at a very fast pace, and it's almost like many Christians is either so consuming they don't want to deal with it, or they're not even aware of it, right? They're so into some political paradigm or this paradigm or that paradigm, they can't see the changes that are taking place. There is a I call it, well, I'm not going to call it on your show what I normally call it, but it's almost like a hybrid gospel. It looks like the gospel. It's by the same Bible, but the ideology is different and is spreading all over the world.
Absolutely, Mike. And most people don't know it. I can tell you, because about 90% of people who claim to be Christians don't know anything about prophecy or the end of time or how things are going to come about or the signs to watch for. They have no idea. They don't even believe there is to worry about these things. They don't want to look into it. It's discouraged. It's even preached from the pulpit. I mean, just recently saw a guy on television the other night. Heidi was telling me, he was telling everybody, he was warning them against these end of the world preachers that tell you that the apocalypse is coming. And he made those kinds of terms. And what he was trying to do was soothe their conscience and to let them know that this is, everything's going to remain the same as it always has, which is what the Bible says.
Prophecy. Yeah.
It's prophecy. You're exactly right.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, Mike, look, I think you've given us some great advice here tonight. Any bombs you're going to lay on us before this evening's over? Anything that I am not even seeing here?
Yeah, no, Pastor Paul, this winter, I'm really trying to get all my data points together to see if we're going to be in some type of a ash environment here shortly or not. during the winter time. That'd be terrible in the winter to have to deal with ash also. But it right now looks like that could be a very real possibility. It's something we're going to have to. Ash is very intrusive. It gets into any crack where air can get into your homes, and that's a brand new set of circumstances. It will most certainly come. I just want to see if it's coming, if it's right around the corner.
Is this
because there are some indications taking place that are just they're off the scale.
Well, will this January 5th date, January 5th, 2023, was that going to help give you the indicators?
No. If the indicators are going off already, they're already going off, and this could take place,
Yellowstone?
Well before January.
Are you concerned about Yellowstone at this moment, or somewhere else?
No, not really. Not Yellowstone. Below Yellowstone, right? There's a big cavity below Yellowstone, right? And if you think of it this way, if you had a big water balloon, right? But then below the water balloon, you had a bucket.
Yeah.
Right? And if the water balloon bursts, some of the water is going to go up, yes, but it's also going to go down because of the bucket, right? And because of gravity. Well, below Yellowstone, if it got so pressurized where the top would break, chances are the lower portion of it will also break. And it would go in two directions, decreasing its output. It won't be like it was last time, because this time there's a secondary system right below Yellowstone that if the top builds up any pressure, it's going to push downward, and then the downward portion is going to open up. Right. So a lot of that lava is going to go right down into another chamber. That's not the case with some of the other volcanoes on the West Coast. Specifically in Washington State, because some of the more ancient volcanoes are waking up. There are also there's a new volcano is in South Carolina right now. There's another one in New York. There's another one in several places that they're starting to find out because of we have more technology that can look and penetrate the ground in different ways. So and in the Gulf, there's a monster in the Gulf, of course. And that one's more of a risk than anything else. That one is more of a threat than anything else. Because if it goes off, it's not like we're going to pinpoint it right away. It's going to be in the ocean. It's going to contaminate that water. And ash will just be, it'd be a vent shooting up from the Gulf all out to the air from there. And that one's showing a lot of activity right there in the Gulf. So, we face, these things are all over the place. But they have a real immediate effect that they could cause in a real short gap of time. And so I need to get my data points together to see, is this something of major concern? And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but right now.
It is a prophecy again. It's in Joel. It says there'll be blood and fire and pillars of smoke, and the sun will be darkened and the moon will turn to blood. So that blood and fire and pillars of smoke, that makes me think that there's some type of massive explosion or eruption in this ash environment, which creates a dark winter, a very dark winter, environment where things won't grow because the sun's being blocked. I mean, I think you've talked about that in the past. So your concern is that this is sooner rather than later now.
Yeah, you know what? So it's a matter of time for volcanoes. I mean, just the magma activity is it has increased so much. It's beyond belief. It's beyond belief. If the average person could see what is moving underneath their feet and how it's moving, right, they would have no certainty in this moment right now. And what I'm telling you is that it's only a matter of time, Pascal, before this magma breaches in a lot of places everywhere. It's going to start breathing.
So it's not just one place. It's not just one spot. It's going to start just blowing.
It's in a lot of places. The entire Earth is just the magma is active. It's very active, active. One of the volcanoes that is soon to erupt is in Siberia. That will erupt. There are two ocean-borne volcanoes in the Pacific. They will erupt. They're not near Hawaii. They're north of Hawaii. Alaska is about to have a real problem with another one that's very active. And they actually have instruments down there now trying to see, what the real deal is from this thing, or trying to get some sort of indicator as to how much time they have left, because it happens to be close to a hardened facility. And of course, the Gulf and other places. South America is when it goes, it's going to be very active. extremely active. It's going to have the greater tug in the southern hemisphere where it is, south of the equator. So there have been so many geological changes and developments. My goodness, that would take a pretty big map and detailed map to really point out. But that's precisely what I'm doing, Pascal, because talking about it is one thing, but for people to see it, to keep them informed on where these places are, what could potentially take place, having that map will be, it'd be pretty valuable, to give someone some insight, not to scare them to death, but to at least keep them notified.
Yeah, so when you started this interview tonight, so it sounds like the webinar we got coming up, Deep Impact, the incoming asteroids, might be good timing, December 2nd.
Yeah, well, and we're getting a lot of data points together, Pascal, because this, for the first time in my lifetime, things are about to turn serious. How about that?
Well, it must be.
Comparison.
You must be, because you're 4 stories underground tonight talking to me. So you're not down there just playing tiddlywinks.
Yeah, this. I'm not good. You know what? If something were to happen, though, everybody should know I'm not trying to save my own skin. I'm not that type of person.
Right, I know. Oh, I know. I know you're down there working. I know you're not buried in a bunker somewhere waiting for the end of the world.
Because it's, that would be like that's a coffin. That's a coffin.
Yeah, it's a coffin.
I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're down there, because whatever you're doing down there, you're watching out for the rest of us and keeping us informed, and we appreciate that.
Well, Pastor Paul, there's so much to discuss.
There is.
I hope to have this map done pretty quick.
You think you could have it ready for the December 2nd webinar and bring that out during that webinar?
I think I will. I think I'll have it done by then, but it's almost like something inside me is telling me to get it done it's coordinated. It's not just me. This isn't just me. This is quite a few people involved in this.
Okay.
And, because we're really in a different time.
Yeah.
We're in a different time.
Well, we'll leave that with you, and hope that, and maybe that will encourage people to be sure not to miss this webinar. That Mike can bring us something forward that we probably need to know about, folks. Really, people better give their life to Jesus Christ. That I know, and I'm not saying that just because there ain't nothing else to say. It's a real deal. We're in the end days, and people need to get right with God.
It is.
Mike,
it most certainly is, Pascal.
I appreciate everything you're doing, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
God bless you, Pascal.
God bless you. Thank you so much. We'll be talking.
All right.
Bye-bye.